Welcome to the North Pole standing surface. We have got just such a lot of fun going on here. We've got all kinds of dimension. We've got different layers. We've got pieces that can be used as ornaments. These two could be definitely as ornaments, and even the barn. You can also, we've got a banner topper that you could use with that as well. I'd like to explain a little bit what the standing surfaces are, because I think that it can be a little bit confusing, but they're super simple, really easy, fold down flat for storage, and I think you're going to love them. Okay, so this is the complete set. It's got the Christmas word in front. There are other words that you could put there. And I don't know how better to give you the dimension than to keep showing it to you this way. It is just so cool. You know, I've got lights that wiggle and stuff, and you've got snow that's textured. You've got three-dimensional stuff happening all over here, and we haven't had that in decorative painting at all. So I just really hope that you enjoy it. It is just a family heirloom in my book already, and it just, like, I don't even want to put it down. So I hope you enjoy the lesson. When we're base coating our standing surfaces, what we're going to do is we're going to use this Italian sash brush, which has got a really long, kind of floppy but stiff bristle. I'm going to go into honey brown and stipple it around, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to tap towards my edge. This will prevent a lot of bleed under problems and things like that. When we have these cut detailed things, you just want to kind of scooch it each way towards it. And then you can smooth out the texture if you don't like that on top. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and get that all base coated. And then I'll take it off of my nonstick mat and I'll place it on top of these little drying things so that I can get dry and air all the way around. Okay, to clean up our mat, we're just going to go ahead and squirt it with some regular old water. And we're going to use a little squeegee kind of scraper thing. And I'll use that side that's flat. And it just loosens right up and it peels right off. Let me grab a little example of something I was playing with. I took a little piece of this and I used some glass letting type liquid stuff, and notice that it peels right off. And what was really funny is this is a piece of 2-part epoxy that I put on here to just see how it would dry and if it would stick or whatever. And it's like a varnish that goes real thick, like a bar kind of varnish. And I put it on there and it pops right off, and you can make little pieces like this to glue onto your piece. It's just really cool how non-stick this really is. So anyway, 2-part epoxy, hot glue, any of that kind of stuff doesn't stick to this. So you can make as big a mess as you want. And with the extra large size available, then that just makes it all the better. A bigger mess, right? Alright, I'm going to go ahead and erase any of the details. On the back of my ghostwriter, there's a little eraser back there, and so I can erase my chalk lines. Okay, and then we are going to dry rub the highlights with the dome stencil brush. And we're going to start with forest green, and what we're going to do is we're going to rub off all the paint. Just dip a dry brush into the paint, and then you rub off everything. I call this dry rubbing, because we're going to use rubbing motion, and our brush is indeed very dry. Okay, and so then we're going to go ahead, we're going to use shape following, which I'm just going to do a series of kind of like little circles. We don't want this to look like a big pillow or anything like that, so you don't want to get it too rounded looking. Or if you do, you want to make it evenly, like it's bowed out or something. Okay, so that's our first layer. We can repeat with that color one time. These, you'll want to buy a bunch of these little guys like this. They are indispensable, and you have to have them dry. So make sure they're super duper affordable. Make sure you have a handful of them on hand when you're going to do a dry rubbing project, because you won't be able to move forward with your colors if you don't have enough brushes. One of the tricks that we can do to make them stretch a little further is we can go ahead and use this dirty brush. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe out even more and go into my next color. Now what this will do is it'll muddy this color just a little bit, so I'll neutralize it by loading it again and wiping that out. That neutralizes the color that was on there before. Okay, now this color, this is cold and wet, so that means if your project is ever cold, that means that it's actually wet. So I'm going to hit this with a blow dryer real quick. Okay, so we'll go ahead and increase the highlight. You don't want to go straight onto a project with the lightest color because you'll end up with it sitting on top of the surface and looking very chalky. So you always want to make sure that you build up your highlights. Okay, so that's getting kind of pretty. The color gets really pretty with this series of greens. So we'll go into the next highlight up, which is bright green. And then this one we might leave this just a little bit like, be careful with this one. It might sneak up on us and take over. If you lose any little bristles from these brushes, just brush them off. They're not what you would call the most well-constructed brush, but if a bristle falls out, that's okay. If you're going to spend just a buck for a brush, then who cares? And they do a really great job at this technique. Okay, so I think that's probably about bright enough. Recently at a convention, I was showing people how you can take a little mistet like this and you can squirt your little water drops. Let's get you going here, guy. Okay, hang on. Okay, apparently if you put this all the way full, it doesn't quite want to squirt. So I dumped some out and we're good to go. So what you can do is, see right here, I'm going to be squirting some water drops. Okay, and notice that they're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I squirt in the same spot. Okay, now what I can do with this is I've pre-wet my brush and let it soak off to the side for a little bit. Your floats will actually get prettier and prettier when you start with a damp brush. Okay, so I'm going to float with black green. I'm going to go up here and blend. And for purposes of demonstration, what we can do is show you that on a piece of paper, okay, on a piece of paper which is very dry and very absorbing, you don't get a very good float. See how scratchy that is right away. But if you come over here and just with the clean end, you suck them up. And then you just go back to the same spot and blend again. Okay, and you come back here and look at how beautiful your float is. Now it dried up again, but I can just go add as much water as I need each time that I need it, and I'm just going to go ahead and float back to the original spot and just add and load right there in the same place. Just a little too much water there. Okay, and we're going to get, whoops, going to get prettier and prettier floats, but I can just keep going back here, loading water and loading my paint, and I'm going to get a really pretty effect on my project. And the longer you go without washing and drying your brush out, the better off your floats will look. Okay, so that's just a nice little trick. Alright, so let's see, I'm going to start up here. I'm using an angle shader, and the reason I'm using an angle shader is because I have these little places that are kind of sucked into corners. Okay, so I tuck that corner right on in there, and then notice I'm just kind of teasing it out. My brush is nice and moist. I don't have to worry about hurrying. And so I'm just going to go right down to there, and I'll walk it out just a little bit right there. And maybe I'll go ahead and mop it. This is my favorite little mop right here. A blending mop. Okay, and then we'll float all around the whole piece, and I'll just keep loading my water droplets. If you want a really good travel tip too, you can actually take these little smaller containers. You can have one filled with water, one with alcohol and one with extender, and then they all fit right there, and you don't have to have big buckets of liquids, you know, in your travel bag and stuff. This is very handy. I've had these for probably about 3 years, and I take them with me everywhere. They just go in my little paint supply kit, and super duper handy to have. Alright, we're going to get the sleigh runners. We're going to do espresso. And so what we'll do is we'll shade underneath them. Okay. Do that all the way around. One of the tricks that I need to show you, because we're on this cut edge, what we're going to do is we're going to lead, instead of floating right straight against my edge, I'm going to shade to the angle, and that will keep my brush on the surface of the wood. Otherwise you'll find yourself falling off the track all the time into the little valley down there. Okay, one of the other things that we're going to do is we're going to be switching gears. So we want to go on the underneath side with the espresso, and then I'll just run it into a corner there, and then I'll come over here and meet it on the other side. So then when I highlight, I'll highlight over here and then over here. It doesn't make much sense, but I want the highlights always on top in this case. Okay, then we're going to go into Alizarin Crimson. And we're just going to deepen, whoops, and try to do it a little bit neater. Deepen some of these little areas underneath here. It's just like a little kiss of the red. Okay, maybe over here. Okay, that just gives us just a little something going on. Carries the color around. Tints things. Probably up here on the back of our sled. Maybe up here on the lower nose of our sled. Okay, and we can go into Black Plum next and deepen any of that we want to. I'm going to bring that around. Okay, just do little kisses here and there. I'm going to use the number 2 Patty's Favorite dry brush, and I'm going to load it nice and juicy into Camel. Okay, and I'm flattening it down, and I'm going to flick on my paper towel, and we're going to go ahead and dry rub our highlights. I'm going to check that just a little bit more. Dry rub the highlights with the Camel, opposite of where your shade was. And I think I'm actually going to have to flip that. That looks a little bit messy. Okay, so what I'm going to do, because it was such a strong color, I'm going to mix my base plus the Camel. And that should help tone that color down. Okay, and so what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and dry brush right there on that edge. Yeah, that's much better. It's not screaming at me. I like how it's catching the edge right there. That looks like it's got a little bit of a glimmer. Makes it kind of shiny. Okay, and then we'll just catch all of these little rails. Okay, we're going to take just a little bit of our marigold where our sleigh runners are the brightest, and we'll keep that up in the center of interest. So we can brighten that right where things are going to be the brightest. Back here by the toys, up under the toys, up in front. We won't have too much of it down here, maybe just a little kiss of it on here and there. That just gives it that kind of more metallic look. I've got my Santa on my Artist Buddy, and what the Artist Buddy does is it's got a little, let me get you back and I'll show you. I'm using the Artist Buddy to get a couple of things happening. These have little locks that you just put under here. Otherwise it can spin freely. And then it has this different levels of standing so that you can raise up your surface. Now what the benefit is to you is not so that you can raise it up for viewing on filming, but it is to get your posture upright. So when you're sitting and you're painting and you're hunched over your painting project, then that's really bad for your posture, and it's really terrible for like breathing and getting air and circulation and all of that. Many people have written and said they can't paint anymore. They've added this little guy and now they don't have any pain when they're painting. So this is just a really good like health tool. Okay, so then we're going to go into Honey Brown, and I'm using this to get the angle up so that you can see what my hand is actually doing. Okay, so this way my hand isn't like covering over the whole thing. So we're going to base the gold detailing on the lantern with Honey Brown. I'm using a Pro Round brush because they are awesome. They can base coat, they can make strokes, they can do shading, they can do dry brushing, they can do just about everything. I never would have guessed that I would have loved a round brush when I very first started painting. Okay, so I'll get that all based. It'll probably take 2 coats, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the rubbing after I get the first base coat on. And even though I'll have to repeat repeat the base coat one more time. All right, I'm going to put the deep midnight blue back here behind in the handle right there of the. At some point there's a hat going on, but I think he's whipping around. So I want that just to be kind of like dark sky. Okay, and at this point, let's see. I think we're going to make our leather belt, our jingle bell strap, out of, we're going to do milk chocolate. Get that based. I like to get all the base coats done because then walking through all of the details is just pure fun. I just don't know if this is dark enough. So funny, you look at this bottle of paint and it looks like it's very dark, and then you look at the effect and it's like, well, maybe not so much. Yeah, that's not making me happy either. I need another color. Okay, we're going to take our micro eraser and we're going to erase any little itty bitty bits that are showing still. Okay, it's just a retractable little tiny microscopic eraser. But when you get paint on your graphite lines, what happens is they get stuck there forever. So you always want to make sure you get rid of any lines before you're going to put paint on stuff. The fur is based with slate gray, the face is flesh tone, and I decided to make that red ribbon because when we get our little dude over here, he's going to have red harnesses to bring those 2 colors together. So I get the red on here and the red on here, and then it'll flow across. So sometimes you don't get to choose to have brown harnesses if you need the red to flow. So you have to watch that when you're choosing colors. Alright, I'm going to take my mustard seed and a crescent brush, and I'm going to dry rub, which means I've got dry paper towel, dry paint, dry brush. And I'll just rouge on, or dry rub on, the yellow lamp from the center. And it'll be fairly strong in the middle because that's where like the filament or the bulb is, or the candle, whatever is lighting Santa's light. And then we'll spread it out. Okay, and then to make it coat a little bit better, we'll stipple in the middle. Okay, and then that light from there is going to kiss onto the runners. So wherever that light is coming in contact, we want to reflect that with just a little bit of mustard seed in that direction. Okay. All right, I want to go ahead and mix some mustard seed with some white, and I'm going to use an angle stippler, and I want to give that just some crunchy light coming out of here magic. Using this brush dry. And then maybe just a little bit of white. And I'll let that dry, and I'll rebase coat the things that I hit with the yellow. Alright, we're going to highlight the brass stuff with a little bit of a dry brush of mustard seed. Just kind of up the center of things. Alright, we're going to use our little short bright brushes, and we're going to shade right where we want it to go and walk that out. Okay, the neat thing about the short brights is if you use them with minimal water, you can control all your floats for really tiny areas. Let's see, I'll go here. So I can get this little chain and just shade it and walk it just like I was doing something big. But I have all this control. Okay, I'll make that little guy look like he's going around. I would normally just let this wheel spin to turn my angle, but I think it gets a little dizzying when you're on camera, so you can do that at home, but I'll do mine the manual way. And so this is espresso. I think I said that. And can you see how I'm just walking that straight out? These are super thin and super short, and that's why they work so well. All right, then we'll take our round brush and we'll go into a little bit more of the marigold or mustard seed, sorry. And then I'll just give that nice look of the brass. I'll get a little bit of white with it. I'm going to go with the mix and give that a shine. Alright, on my small red areas, I'm going to use a really tiny crescent brush, and I'm going to, this is the real small one. I love that they come in this size. This is the 1/8. And I'm going to highlight. So I've dried all the paint off. I'm using Coral Blush to highlight. And so I can just add my dry rubbed highlight. this has a top and a bottom to it. Always go shape following. Let's see how big we can do this on his hat. It's going to be dried off a little bit more. Kind of straight up the middle. And what I'm doing is I'm highlighting before, and we'll highlight that red while we're over here. I'm kind of doing a messy float through the middle, and that way when I shade on top of it, it'll kind of glaze it and it'll make the float seem like it belongs. Real tender pressure. Shape following. Now I can stretch that out just a little bit to soften the float. Alright, we'll take our coral blush and continue into all of these little red areas, just right in the middle. You can strengthen it as you need to, so I can go back to that area and say, oh yeah, I want that middle just a little bit higher. Now, the shinier you get something, or the brighter you get it, the shinier it looks. So since Santa's got a fur, or not a fur, but like a velvet outfit, we probably don't want him to have, you know, anything too shiny looking. So, and then the other thing is you want to, this area right here is shadowed because he's in the sleigh and his arm is over it and the fur is over it. So this highlight is going to be really minimal. It'll just do a little bit just for roundness. And I think this needs to be a blanket or something. I'm not quite sure what I think about that. Let's see what we get when we get there. And the ball can be a little bit shinier. His gloves need to be green. Alright, we're going to shade our red areas with Alizarin Crimson. Use the short bright brush. And when I use these, I tend to put my brush handle down just a little bit more. I don't use it straight up and down. So, and I tend to also pat at it a little bit because you can. Not sure why. Haven't pondered that yet. Okay, and that just makes him just a nice rich red. We'll go ahead and come over here and get this lantern going. Really digging the Alizarin Crimson these days. And I don't know if you can tell from the sound, but I'm not reloading my water over and over again. I'm really just using this brush with the water that's left inside of it. And that is a big time saver. Like, it just tends to mush the paint where you want it, and it's all good. Okay, and we'll get this little guy right here. And now we'll walk this down. And we'll go ahead and bring it up the other side. And we'll go here. You always want to be able to see which side you're floating on. So I always turn to float towards me. Santa's arm. For roundness, you'll do the top and the bottom. There's that little dude right there. Okay, and then his arm will get over here. And then we'll go underneath. Now it just becomes an issue of avoiding your wet areas. And we'll go into Black Plum. And I will go ahead and wash my brush just because it was getting just a little bit. Once it gets too dry, it'll kind of start telling you that it's time. So just pay attention to your brush. We'll go underneath here with the Black Plum, because that's really shadowed. give it a single swipe on the alizarin areas to reinforce. And now we'll start looking for areas where we can tuck them in. So we're going to tuck in where this is going behind the sleigh. Round that up just a little bit. Right here behind Mr. Teddy Bear. Let's tuck that ball back there. The arm is of course tucked. This whole body right here, I've got to get that dry first. Okay, now as this starts coming out of the thing, then right here where it hits and it loops over, that's where things are going to be really bright. Now I didn't highlight that, but that is where it would be bright. This area right here is where it would be kind of dark. So we'll just pay attention to that. I got anything? Yeah, I'm going to have to dry before I can do more. Alright, we'll go ahead and get him shaded down just a little bit more back here. And the other side of his arm. And under his beard. And maybe we'll just keep this lap. I don't know what I'll do yet. We'll just go ahead and shade it as if it's going to be legs, and then we'll decide. So I'm going to get the rest of this guy shaded. I'm going to shade underneath his furs. I'll make sure that those thread out over under his beard. So everywhere under and over is what you're going to be looking for. And I still have to get that elbow shaded down. I think the end of his bell thing here needs to be, just walk that color in a little bit. It's got to be done back here, where he's sitting in that sleigh. I want this top float to be a little bit skinnier. And I want that one to cover up that line that stayed. Where things go over or into corners, like over here, we need to make sure that that gets shaded and then walked out. Alright, we're going to highlight over the top of our red highlights with Fiery Red. And this is a neon color. And what this does is it doesn't base coat or anything, but it just glazes and it gives it just a real vibrant kind of color. Okay, so just go ahead and just sprinkle some of that here and there. I haven't highlighted this yet, I probably ought to take care of that. And then you can increase it where you want things to just stick out just a little bit more. So I'm just doing a little dry brush there. Okay, kind of keep his center of attention right there, and this stuff will be like additional like detail that your eye can wander around in. Alright, we're going to go into our forest green with a crescent brush, and we're just going to go ahead and highlight the centers of his mittens. If you do this kind of controlled, you'll end up with it self-shading, so you won't have to do the shading on that. And I think while we have this color out, let's go ahead and build our little Christmas tree. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and just kind of bring up little branch kind of things. And then we'll go into bright green, and we'll just go ahead and highlight, and I'll have to wait till that dries. There we go. Right up the middle with the bright green. And then we'll dry that out of the brush and then go into, oh, that was festive green, then bright green. Okay, I'll definitely wait till that dries. And then while our middle is wet, our gloves are wet, let's go ahead and slip slap just a little bit of our festive green. So I'm starting where I want the color the strongest, and then I'm just slip slapping that. And then I'll go into the bright green, and I'll put that right in the middle, and because it's wet in wet, then that means it'll blend really nicely. And go up there and take care of that tree. I like that festive green on there a lot. I think we'll go kind of all over with that. Okay, and I think just a smoothing application of the green. Yeah, I think those are great. Alright, so where this is coming out, we want to give that a nice highlight. Alright, in the coral blush. And now I'll do almost like a dry brush. I'll just barely dry it off of my brush, and we'll make that have a nice high highlight. This faded down when I glazed it, and I wanted just a little bit more shine because it's metal. So I'll sneak into coral blush, and then I'll sneak over to the white and blot that and just add a shine with the white and the coral blush. Okay. Anything metallic gets to be shiny. Okay, I'm going to go into my, let's see, which number 10-aught Mighty Fine Liner with a little bit of the mustard seed and white. And we're going to give our little shinies to these guys. And actually, let's go ahead with the white and let's do a little skip highlight. And so that won't be like in a row. It'll just be like a little skip line. It just makes it super shiny looking. Okay, I think a little bit of that. Alright, I can dig it. And now we'll continue onwards with our ribbon, and we'll go into the alizarin, which is drying up. And we'll see what we need to do with our hat and beard. Let's see, let's go ahead and do our hot shots, or our neon. They used to be called hot shots. On that. Go back into our coral blush and just tone that hot shot down just a little bit right there. Add that little bit of painterly texture. we'll go ahead and line next to our harnessy bell thing with coral blush, a little bit of water just for flow. And that's just to say, hey, yeah, this is dimensional. And then we'll go line next to it on that side, because we've shaded with it, with Alizarin. Bring that up just a little bit. Okay, I think actually I want to do this in the dark instead of in the light, so I'm in Black Plum. I'm just lining that with the Black Plum. Now I think there's a couple places on the sleigh that we could do some shading. We're going to do black green. And that's going to be where things are next to things. So for example, this little guy right here is next to the sleigh. Comes out here. Give him a little bit of a C-strokey shade. Maybe we'll bring some down here where that's casting kind of a shadow. Underneath here. And then that'll get skinnier coming up to the top. Okay, that just adds just that little bit of dimension and detail. Alright, we're going to go into our highlight for the face with Highlight Flesh, which is aptly named. And we're going to go right into the middle. And we'll let that dry. Okay, we're going to go with graphite. And for his, this is going to be his beard and the ball and all of that stuff. Go ahead and just shade. We can shade with that graphite on the blue color as well. So now we're going to shade everywhere where things are under and over. And I'm going to fluff that shading just a little bit. I don't want it to be like real liney. Okay. Draw that in. And bring it up where it's going to be more shaded, and then you do it a little bit thinner where it's going to be less shaded, like where the light would be going. So for example, his fur down here is going to be walked up quite a bit. Okay, and then don't forget to shade on his pom-pom, because you got to have shadow for the highlight to show. So if everything is the same, then your highlights won't show at all. Okay, so go under here. It's going to have something going on with his beard, I'm sure. And this side will be his darker side. This will be like the highlight area right here. And just kind of tickle it up. I'm into one of these little angle stippler brushes. They're made out of like a real stiff, fuzzy type fur type stuff, bristle. And we're going to go into Gray Sky and just pounce really hard. And then we're going to make our fur. And you just want to tap it on there so that it leaves all those little hairy looking stuffs. Get you in a little closer. Okay, so here, same thing. We're going to start in the highest area. And then I'll walk it towards the other, letting it get real wispy. And we'll go over our red. Okay, so we're not going to work super hard at this. This is easy to do. Okay, same thing on his hat. I'm going to get in the highest area, which is going to be that front corner. Same thing here. And lighter, 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 lighter. And you can just go touch a couple of things on there. Now we'll go into white, dirty brush. And we'll just highlight just that little bit. And that's it. All right, on our horn, we're going to shade with Black Plum. Shade down the edges. And then we'll switch to our round brush and we'll go into mustard seed and we'll do a dry brush. Repeat as needed and then repeat with mustard seed plus white. We're going to shade on his face with Shading Flesh. We'll shade on both sides and then we'll get underneath his hat stuff. Actually, I think I can slide that right on over. Sometimes your best mops are your fingertips. Okay, we need to shade on our little teddy bear, and so we'll shade him with the espresso. When your colors start drying out, sometimes your floats won't agree with you. So we'll just go ahead and pretend like his face is based over there. And we'll grab that star while we're at it on one side. And under his belly, try to keep you on camera, holy smokes. Okay, we're going to take the dry rubbing and the mustard seed, and let's go ahead and stipple that star from the brightest edge and then dry it off and continue stippling over. We'll give it just a little bit of a different look, and we'll use the same, we'll use a little crescent. Let's use the Now let's use the crescent. I think his fur needs to be a little bit tame. And we'll go into camel. Is that camel? Cocoa. Camel. Okay. And we'll just give his little nose some stippling. Give his little ears a little highlight. And then we'll give him some fur. Might have to do his highlights again or his shading again. And I think I'm going to like him with a little bit of the soft black for his, just to warm him up just a little bit. Okay, we'll get in a little bit closer here, try to keep you on the camera. Alright, we're going to just build a little bit of a furry brow. Then we're going to go into our Nope Espresso. Espresso plus a little bit of Alizarin or black plum or something like that. Some dark red, and we want to get the inside of his mouth. I've done it in just dark colors before, and that always seems to just look a little bit like there's a black hole there, so we don't want it too dark. Okay, we'll go into the flesh color, and we'll get his lip based. Now we'll start building his fur, or his fur, yeah, I guess he's furry. His mustache. Come around. Always give yourself the best position for stroking to things like that. Now I'll go into white. Okay, a little bit too much on the tip of my brush. Okay. Alright, and now we'll go ahead and shade under his mustache with graphite. I think I have way too much paint in my brush. And you can give yourself some highs and some lows. And then we'll go back to the gray sky with water. Okay, and then we'll just start curling Santa. And he's looking a little straggly. I think we have to give him a little bit more of a curl rather than just like a crazy, crazy beard. Here. We have hair on the side of his face. And come out over his over the top of his clothes. That's why you do the clothes first. Whatever's under gets painted first. More white in his mustache. outer curl there. Okay, I think I can dig it. And we'll shade his nose with just a little bit of shading flesh. And we'll shade his little lips as well. And we'll get his little eyes. We're going to take his eyes and do them with, let's go ahead and do burnt umber plus lamp black. And we're going to just use our liner brush and we'll squiggle them. So I just need a kind of a darkly black, but not black, black, black. Okay, and so I'm going to turn them this way so that I can see what I'm doing. We're just going to give him a little squiggle. Okay, it's just amazing that that actually makes them into eyes. Give his nose a little liner. Whoops. Okay, this is where we want our micro eraser. I just totally biffed that. I licked the end of my micro eraser and it will remove fresh paint. Okay, so we don't want that brown right there. So we'll line his nose with a little bit of shading flesh plus brown. And he's probably going to need a little bit of cherry cheeks. So we'll go into our tomato and we'll give him some red on his cheeks. And we'll give him some red on the tip of his nose. Now, once again, I'm going to lick my micro eraser. There we go. That's better. And I think I'll go ahead and float my red on because I'm not having much luck with that size. Getting it right where I want it. Okay, presto. We'll take our teddy bear and we'll give him that dark brown mix with the black and the burnt umber, and we'll get him some eyes. And then we'll give him a little stitched nose. And we'll give him with brown and not black. And give him a little mouth. Okay, maybe he can have a little bit of ears as well. Okay, we're going to put some bulbs in our tree. So we're going to have some red bulbs and some gold bulbs. We'll have like 3 of each. And so we'll just do them with the same color as our, that's the, and you know, that's the camel color, and let's give that just a little bit more highlight up here. I like it. And I faced our little bells down here in their camel color as well. Okay, we're going to use the black plum color, and we're going to do a little C-stroke underneath the bells. Actually, I think I'm going to go with a round brush and just line under it. I think this bell got a little oversized. I think I'll shave him off in the process. Okay, that gives those bells a nice, just like cast shadow kind of moment. And now we'll float on the bell with, let's go into milk chocolate first. And we'll go ahead and do them at the base next to their cast shadow. And we'll rotate it around as we get down there. Okay, we're going to let that dry, and then we'll repeat with the soft black. And I'll definitely have to hit the dryer. All right, and we'll repeat the soft black. And then we'll go into our mustard seed. Remember with these short brights that you need less water than you ever thought you needed. So don't overload your brush with water. Okay, those are belly looking, I think. And now what we need to do is we need to go into the, I think, honey brown. And let's give them those little bell features, like the little whoopee thing that goes outside the bell. I think that one's a little bit big. Kind of drag that across. And then we need to give them a little bit of a top as well. And then we'll go into mustard seed plus white, and drag that puppy across the middle. And give the same color and give it a little bit of a highlight on top. And now we'll go into that dark brown black mix, and we'll make the holes on the base. I think that's good. Okay, we need probably a little bit of shine on our bells, so we'll go into the mustard seed plus the white mix. And we'll give them just, maybe just white. Okay, and maybe a little bit more of a highlight down here across the bell. we've got our reindeer, and we're going to go into espresso. Nope, we're going to go into milk chocolate. And we are going to shade loading my brush just a little bit nicer. My paints are all getting a skim on the top of them, and so what I'm trying to do is just shortcut myself, and that's not working so good. So just everywhere where there's like a little knuckle or a joint, and then on the edges of things. Across the tops of ears. Get you on camera. Across the top of his head. And then of course across the back. The neck, belly, just about everywhere. What does his leg do here in the front? Okay. Flip them over, get the other sides of his legs. What we're doing is establishing roundness. Okay, we're going to add some fur, so I'm not worrying too much about what these, what this all looks like. Let's get into a big, let's try this dome brush, and then let's go into, oh, what is this color? Honey brown. And let's give him a really fine fur. Walk it down his leg. Like, he shouldn't be like a teddy bear, but I think just having a little low pile nap to him is fine. We'll go into a little bit of camel, dirty brush, and then we'll do this just a little bit where he's going to have the highlights. Let's go ahead and just stipple him on some highlights. Oh, okay, I guess he's going to be highlighted in the middle. Gives him just a little bit fur-like texture, and I think we can go and do just a little bit more brightening. So each kind of brush that you try to stipple with is going to give you a different kind of fur look. Now I'm away from the honey brown, and I'm going to go with a little final kind of highlight. So I'm totally into only the camel color. Okay, time to let that dry. We're going to shade our reindeer with burnt umber. Just going to get him a little bit deeper, browner. And just going to round those shades out. Okay, we'll get him down here on this little crack right here. Shade that back leg. And shade down the back leg. Shade his ears. Shade his breast here. I'm looking to see where his leg goes. I think that is his other leg, so he needs to have that end there. So once again, we're shading things to show their position. So we want to shade the backest things first, the things that are the furthest back. So we're going to decorate him with all kinds of things, jingle bells and harnesses and stuff, but if we put the harnesses on first, then we'll be trying to shade through the harness or around the harness, and that always looks really kind of yucky. So it's super important to paint in the right sequence. Even though it's super easy to say, oh, I just want to get it all done at once. This will make it look much, much better. Okay, he's taking this. I like the little fur on him. I've done the reindeer before, but I haven't added the furry texture. Okay, shade that little tail. And always, of course, turn your piece so that you're shading to yourself. And let's see. I think he looks pretty good. So we'll get out some soft black, and we'll increase any little bits of shading that we need to. Timber. And he actually is looking pretty good. I don't know that I need too much deepening. I think he's going to get a little bit dirty, so I think I'll skip that. Okay, we'll go ahead and shade on his antlers with soft black. I think that'll be about the right color. That'll deepen them. I'm just going to shade along the bottom. And then we'll shade up the bottoms. I think that's about perfect. Okay, we're going to add some dry brushing with cocoa on the tips of the antlers. And we want that really like dry and scratchy. So here's how I'm loading my brush. Okay, I'm just taking my brush and I'm pulling paint out from the puddle, and I'm flattening it. And this is what makes a perfectly awesome round brush, is look at how that's perfectly flat, which means I can do chisel S strokes. Okay, I can totally make awesome if I put it in my paint a little bit differently. Now I can totally make pointy, look at the point on the bottom of that. I can less pressure, I can make microscopic little strokes all with the same brush. So you can really do a lot. You can base coat with the flat, you can dry brush with it. I think we might put some snow on his antlers. See what we see. See what we see when we see it. I love the thought that we're, you know, kind of making this up as we go through the video, because you get to be kind of along for the decision making, which is very different from the norm, shall we say. Okay, so that's looking just a little bit chalky to me. I'm going to go ahead, while I'm chalky, I'm going to go ahead and make it even chalkier by putting some camel and dry brush that on top. And then to warm it up, to not have it be like chalk, I'm going to do a wash over the top of it. If you don't have a lot of paint kind of pushed up into your brush, the dry brush doesn't work very well. So you want to make sure you do keep it a little bit juicy, because you're skimming the paint. It's one of the hardest techniques to kind of verbalize, because you can just say dry brush and everybody goes, oh, yeah, that's great, but trying to describe it, it's a great class technique. That any of you teachers out there, it's a good thing to teach in a class. Okay, I've got honey brown. I'm hoping that's sheer enough, and I'm going to use my flat, the Short Bright honey brown with water in it, and then I'm just going to go ahead and glaze over the top of these antlers. There we go. That just warmed it up just enough. The little hooves are going to be soft black, and I picked up a hair somewhere. If you're painting on these surfaces, and you've got two choices with them, you either want to make sure that you paint the edges to give it a little bit more dimension, which isn't as hard as it sounds, or you want to not paint them at all and let them just kind of stand, you know, by themselves. And you can choose either way with that. Then we're going to shade our hoof with lamp black and a small Short Bright. Okay, give it a little dimension, and I think we'll go ahead with our cocoa, and not our cocoa, this is our honey brown, and we'll add just a little bit of a highlight. That just says it's there, and it just gives it a little dimension. Okay, we've got this whole base right down here that we have to deal with because his feet are sitting on. Once again, you got to paint the back thing first. We're going to paint that with slate gray, and then we'll put some snow on it, and then get his little feetsies on there. I'm going to trace all my details at this point because it is detail time. That's the funnest part of every project. Okay. Okay, we're going to get the all this red stuff shaded, and I'll just go ahead and walk in Alizarin Crimson. Shading from the top and the bottom first, and then I'll go side to side. It's going to be rounded, so it's going to disappear and go over from side to side. And that'll also richen up the color. Oh, I'm going to get his nose, although I think his nose is either going to get glittered or jeweled. But I think I'll just go ahead and pretend like it's not going to get anything right now. Okay, I'm going to get into some soft black. So once again, the reason that this brush is working, even though that is, this is a number 12, the reason it's working is because of the shortness of the bristles this way. If you have the really long bristles and you try to float on something real skinny like this, it's just not going to work. You have to really, really have a little bit more control than like you would need. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so now I'm going to just float down, pull that down. I'll do the same on all of the harnesses. Everywhere where they kind of disappear behind his head. Or wherever they disappear, wherever. Okay, and I think that's them. Oops, one more right here. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and line next to the harnesses with some thinned soft black. And what I want to do is just choose a side, and that's, whoops, run my hand through some red, throw it on the brush. Okay, got a mess going on here. What I want to do is just create a shadow moment, but not too much of a shadow. That's not dark enough. So I've thinned it too much. It probably needs to just be just a little bit thinner line. Okay, and we can also go ahead and give him a little bit of shadow right here. Okay, and on our gold harness, I think we'll go ahead into soft black as well. Either side. And we'll go into cocoa for the harnesses with a dry brush. Let's give it that highlight. Yeah, our red needs to be shaded again, and it's going to be black plum. Our gold, I'm going to treat our gold a little bit differently. I think I want to make a little bit of, let's see what we got. I'm not finishing my sentences because I'm not sure what I'm wanting to do necessarily. Okay, let's try mixing honey brown with our marigold. Just give us a toned kind of yellow. And let's try doing a little bit of a kind of a, I'm wanting some kind of brocade, like kind of woven looking, like chevrons, whatever detail. I feel like if it was Santa's reindeer, it would have detail out the yin yang because he's got elves to do it. So I feel like everything kind of needs to be a little ornate on this project. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and just shade or highlight with that same gold mix on the buckles. And one more time over here. And don't forget up here by his little face. And then we've got to bring a dry brush, so I'm going to get into Patty's favorite dry brush, and that's a number 6. You can wet your dry brushes, you just have to pinch out all the water. But that had this is a new one and it had a little sizing in it. And we'll go into Coral Blush, and we'll repeat with the Fiery Red. So dry brush. Keep it out of your real super. Now, so see what's happening here? I'm having to avoid that rain to do this. So I'm just going to go through the rain and I'll repeat the steps on the rain and the same thing down here. It's not going to look as good if you have to go around things. So I jumped the gun just a little bit. And now I'll go back and patch up my reins. Okay, I'm going to go into Straight Mustard Seed, and I'm going to highlight my little chevrons. So just within, I wanted to just have that dimensional kind of look, almost a little bit chunky. Keep turning it so that you can have shape following strokes. And I'll give a little bit of mustard seed down there, and a little bit on our buckle. That's wanting just a little bit of a shadow, so I'm going to use the soft black, not soft black, black plum, and we'll give that just a little bit of dragged in. That's not the right color. Let's go into Milk Chocolate. I'm trying to avoid it looking like the deer. So we don't want the deer to have buckles on him that look just like he does. Okay. And while we've got a little bit of soft black for his eye. And I think he's going to have a little bit of a mouth there, but I think that thing is, that bit is in his mouth. Okay, so next we put on the bells, and the bells are going to be based with camel. Alright, we're going to go right underneath the bells and shade. Okay, little C stroke. That will lift them off. We're using black plum. Very little water in the brush. Clean up my base coat. Now we will shade the bells with some milk chocolate. They're a little bit self-highlighting there, aren't they? This guy needs a little kiss of milk chocolate right there. Right, I'm going to go at the top of the bell with mustard seed. And now we'll go with a little bit of camel. that was almost a waste of time and effort. So we'll get out some white. Use our Mighty Fine liner, and I'm going to use Camel to make the little toppers and stuff. Just go outside of that and add the little bell bits. And then we'll mix it with white to highlight that. And maybe just a little bit of a white sparkle on that, and a glimmer on that guy as well. Oops. Okay, so that's when we spit. And we get out our little micro eraser. And we remove what I just biffed. There we go. So it's not the accident that matters, it's what you do about the accident that matters. Okay, we're going to dry rub with our festive green and get that little saddle blanket done. Forgot all about it. I was sitting back there just looking mighty green. I'm going to repeat with bright green. Let that dry, and then we're going to shade black green. And that brings our colors all the way around. Okay, here's our two little pieces. I think next we'll work on the barn so that we give these guys a home to live in. Now that I've established like this center of interest thing, then now I can say to the barn, like, how bright do you need to be? What colors do I need to bring forward? If the red in front of the red is going to be difficult, do I need to darken the red? That kind of thing. So these guys are the stars. The barn is not the star, and then the words are going to be the supporting cast. So we'll decide on the words after we get everybody else done and we see what we need. Okay, when I'm tracing my patterns, I like to trace with my yellow tracing paper because of how see-through it is. And then I like to use the pen sticks because the pen stick doesn't blend or doesn't fuzz out and stuff. And it's you can get them in a bunch of different lengths or widths. They are very, very superior for tracing patterns. I've got this ground painted with slate gray, and I'm going to paint the barn with soft black. And then we're going to crackle. And so I want it soft black instead of black because I don't want it to be too cold. I don't want those cracks to get kind of, you know, I want this to be like happy cracks, if that makes any sense at all. Okay, so we're going to use weathered wood after we get this on there and dry. And the black, the soft black, is what's going to show through the red that I put on top. And the red will crack, and it will show the soft black. Okay, and so I have just a little bit of... Okay, I marked these areas right here because those are the barn doors, and I don't really want them to be cracked. So I'm going to get up here, and we're not cracking on the roof. Alright, we're going to apply weathered wood, and it doesn't matter how you apply it, it matters when you put the top strokes on. But we do want to work it in, so it doesn't matter which direction I work it. We do want to work it into the surface, otherwise it will look like there's big raised blobs. And if you find it pulling back after you've applied it, just go and restroke it. The only time you have to worry about anything happening with the weathered wood is the top strokes, which is very, very, like, pay a lot of attention to what I'm doing when we get to that part. But this part, you just want to get it worked on there, and then you let it dry. This is a chemical reaction crackle, not a time-sensitive crackle. So this means if you put it on here in 2 years, it will crack if you put paint over it in 2 years. Versus some products are time sensitive. So if you don't get it on there within 30 minutes, then your window of cracking is open. Closed. Closed windows, yeah. Okay, so we'll let this dry. And in the meantime, base that roof graphite. Okay, now the important part. We're going to apply our paint thickly. Okay, so thick is important. And we're going to apply it in the direction we want it to crack. So, let me get my head in here. I've got some glare going on. And we're not going to puddle around in it once we get going. It needs to be thick, no puddling about. It's going to crack in the direction that we stroke. And the heavier we put the paint on, the better the cracks. So here's the trick, right? We've got to come down here really straight. And see that little bit of lifting right there? You got to stay out of it once you get it going. You don't want sideways cracks on your barn. And I can rebase things if I need to. Can't rebase the crackled area, so you want to be careful with that. And can you see it cracking all over the place right there? And I'm using deep burgundy. Now I'm going back and just kind of flicking a few of my warbles. Tap that on there. Okay. Oops, we got that upper area to do. And don't go sideways. Alright, I've got a fan brush that I have loaded with Snow White, and I'm going to create a path. And I just want to go straight back and forth across. And when we get down here, we want to have it be wider. Okay, I didn't like that fan brush at all. So I'm going to switch to my rake, and I'm going to have thinned white, and then I'm just going to go back and forth and straighten out what I messed up. Never had my fan brush do that before. Very interesting. Okay, and then this path in front is going to be a little bit wider. This is going to be the road that they come out of the barn. Go in front of the sign. Okay, now from there, everything gets built. Okay, so we'll take just a little bit of graphite, which I already have out. And we want to build like shadows on the sides of the road, on the path. And from here it just gets a little bit bigger. Okay, and then we add more water, a little bit more color for it down in front. Okay, then we can look and see on our hillside where we want to have. Do we want to have some piled up snow around in here? A bit here. We want to keep a little bit keep this away from this area because that's our area of road. And so if that's our area of road, we don't want to mess up by putting too much other stuff. So let's go ahead and pile on some snow. Little drifts. I'll add some more up here by the building once we're done. That's stacked up against the house or the barn. Okay, now we'll go back and we'll get those a little bit higher highlights. Not everywhere, so we're getting depth and dimension. And I think that's just a nice simple amount of stuff. I think we could probably afford to give ourselves just a little bit more highlight in the path. When we set our dudes in front, let's take a look at how it's going to look. Okay, so I think that that's going to be nice. Okay, I'm going to highlight the windows from the center out and with a little slip slap in a filbert brush. Okay, this is going to be where the light is shining through. And we'll put the highlights in first so that we have when we shade, it'll kind of glaze everything down. Now we'll go with white plus mustard seed. Kind of just little slip, slap, stipple. Then white only. Okay, and what we do next is what makes it. And then we're basing all of our window trim with bleached sand. And so we'll just get that nice and based. Wait for the windows to dry. Can't decide what color my window boxes need to be. Okay, I've got more trim up here. And keep your arms out of the snow. Okay, the windows are going to be shaded with traditional burnt sienna. And this is what's going to give them the glow. Around our corners, where applicable. here. We'll just give it a little something something, and I'll fix that, fix the window trim in a minute. Okay, same thing. It's floating away just a little too fast for me. Okay, let me go across the top. Let's shade one side or the other just a little bit stronger. And we'll shade down at the bottom of our door as well. And it looks like there's a little party going on inside there. And we'll shade our building with black plum or soft black. That is the question. Maybe both. Because we're on deep burgundy now, and not on the red, country red color. And that's not showing very much, so it's soft black. Okay, you're going to go under all these eaves. Same thing. Behind that door would be nice and shaded. Okay, get the side of our building on there. Okay, underneath the underneath this window, a nice shaded moment. Behind the door. And then underneath whatever these colors are going to be. Okay, then we'll go into Patty's favorite dry brush and some coral country red. Flick on our paper towel, and we're going to increase the look of having a couple of slats built into our barn. And that just makes it just a little barnier. Okay, I've got my little guys in front of here again, just trying to see what we got going on. I'm going to give myself some dirt back here, or a floor, with a mix of the traditional burnt sienna and the espresso. Okay. And I think we'll go ahead and shade, whoops, one more time with a little bit of soft black in these corners. Which side do I have my paint on? Cinching in the corners because that's not where the lightest light would come out of. That's Let's go ahead and dry brush the roof. And that, I think what I want to do is we'll go into some of our khaki tan plus slate gray and graphite. So equal, equal, equal. You want to just kind of come up with a tan that's not so blue. And then let's go ahead and give ourselves a little bit of a pattern. So I'll give myself some rows of things. Try to keep them going in the same direction. And because I don't know where my snow is going to land, I'm just going to go ahead and finish it all the way down. Okay, and I'll go back into that mix. Finish the top roof. Streak it on the side. And then we'll go do it again. Maybe a little bit lighter this time, so less of the graphite. And just go across the top, and they don't have to line up. They have to line up in their rows, they don't have to line up on top of each other. And now we'll go into just slate gray plus khaki. And we'll give, let's see, this hip part will probably have a little bit higher point. Okay, then we'll take our ginormous angle shader and make a lot of noise. And we want to go into lamp black, I think. I am flat out of room on my palette. Okay, so we want to go across the top. Just cinch those all in together. Across the top. Down the side. And down the side. And definitely next to this side. Alright, I've loaded my brush on the toe of the angle stippler, which is that pointy end. And I'm going to stipple with raggedy edges. So make sure you don't try to make it into a teddy bear fur. We want greenery, not teddy bear. We've also got greenery in our window boxes that don't have color. Okay, now we'll pick up that same brush, and next it goes into, I've got forest green out, but I don't know if it's going to show. Yeah, it shows. Not everywhere. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to get by with this while it's this wet. Yeah, that's okay. I'll wipe my brush out, and then I'll go into Irish moss. Just touching here and there. Go. And with the back of our brush, some country red decorations. And why not over here as well? Okay, it's time to tackle our little tree here. We're going to go into forest green with water in our brush, and I've moved up to a bigger size brush. Blot a little bit, and yep, blot a little bit more. And what we want to do is just kind of bring these highlight branch type things in. Could move up a brush for the bottom area. Okay, and then we'll go into, I probably don't want that bright a green. Let's go into festive green. I really needed that green to show when we were over here on our wreath, but I don't need it to show so much on this tree. And that's a little bit neon, and I've got it all over my hand. Let's go into Hauser light green. And just settle that down just a little bit. A bit of water. We'll let that dry, and then in the meantime we'll base coat our sign over here with, let's go for forest green. I think we'll go for evergreen. And I've got the post based in the bleached sand. Okay, we're going to take some espresso, and that's not right. We're going to take some espresso if we're going to float the espresso. Let's find some brushes. Take a little bit of espresso, and we want to put our fence posts into some kind of perspective. And we could do our barn building. Let's see. We've got like some bits that are not supposed to be plain white. Could float to separate things. Could float just to downplay some things. Flip our brush over. Woo-hoo! Hey, you know what? If you don't blend, you won't get a float. Floating upside down and backwards is never a good solution. Okay, you can fence posts. Okay, now we make them into white fence posts by using our dry brush, and we'll go into the bleached sand, flick on the paper towel, and then just scumble across. That gives us a little texture. I made the shadow boxes the white as well. Sometimes it's just easier just to keep the color story going. We'll come over to our North Pole sign. And we're going to need a dome stippler. Eventually find one. And I've got my Candyland, if I can move all these paints. This is a really long, awkward piece. Okay, I've got my Candyland stencil. And so I'm going to go ahead and get that off to one side. I'll make it the beginning side. put that down, and then we'll go into deep burgundy, and we'll do 2 coats of deep burgundy. Just stick with that. And I think I may need one more coat. Okay, and then, ta-da! Perfectly, awesomely, evenly shaded. I love it. Then I'll fix my base coat where I stippled over. You could mask that if you wanted to. Okay, we're going to make our little ball of doom over here into something shiny. So we're going to use mustard seed in the middle, and then mustard seed plus white. And then more white. We'll let that dry. And we'll shade our stripes. We're going to shade with deep midnight blue on the pole, on the white pole, and then we'll shade the red stripes as well. So what we'll do is we'll just come down our edge, make it into a giant candy cane. We'll shade the red on them. We use, I think, soft black. Nope, black plum. And we'll take that all the way to the edge. And I don't like that. I think I want to go with soft black instead. Not looking deep enough. Okay. And now we're going to take our round brush, which was laying here and rolled away. We'll take our white and give us a great big old fat highlight. Oh, I forgot to highlight my red. Okay, that's okay. We'll go back through the white and we're done. Let's see, I want a big round, I think. I'm going to go into my country red. Okay, and I'll just give it that highlight. And one more time into coral blush. And now we go back over our white. Go. Take our yellow and we're going to take the traditional burnt sienna. And create that nice glowing nobbits. And then we'll take our round and we'll give it a lovely highlight as well. Okay, we're going to go into our forest green. And we're going to scrub in a kind of with a little bit of an angle. Kind of scrub down a dry brush versus dry rub. Give it a little bit of a different look. Okay, I think I can keep my paint colors straight. And then we'll repeat in the festive green. One more time. And then we'll go one more time into the bright green. Okay, yeah, I can dig it. We'll shade. First we'll dry, but I do want to go ahead and make a gold border. So I think we'll base in, let's base in the yellow, golden yellow, golden straw. And we'll go ahead and base all the way around. Okay, we're going to do our sign, and we're going to go ahead and just kind of dry brush the mustard seed around. Now our stretch to make this look like it's got any kind of metal at all is how I can shade. I'm going to do a real dry float with my short brights. And I'm going to have to wait till this stuff dries. I think I'll just skim over some of these edges. We'll get our Mighty Fine liner, and we'll get our, I think, white paint. And let's make some signs. When you're doing lining like this, when you're doing words, you want to take it only to where that curve is going to go, and then you pick it up on the other side. You always thin your paint with water. Always use a brush that will manage the line. Alright, I've got my Snow Rider and I've dumped a bunch of it onto my palette because what I want to do is I want to side load into it and I want to lay it down on some of these hills. I kind of chunk it on there. Spread some of this textured joy. And then once we get that on there, we're going to sprinkle it with some glitter. Totally over here doing the same thing. Sorry, I'm off camera. Okay, all the way over. And then we'll come over on this side and totally do the same thing. I want that to be like snowy like. And don't put it all the way down to the bottom because that's where we go into the, well, go down to the bottom here, but we go into the slot thing that holds this puppy up. Okay. Both sides. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle glitter on that part while it's wet. Okay, this piece is so big, I'm just doing it over a trash can. Okay, that's just adding a little bit of glitz and glam for me. Okay, then we'll go up to the top. I'm going to get my bridge out because this is exactly when I don't want to put my arm through things. And we're going to get that puppy started and we're going to go right at the ridge. Alright. And we'll do the same thing. Making some little icicles. I don't think we can make them too good when there's not something to hold them up. We'll put a little bit on top of some of our stuff. Get it up here and fill that in. I guess we'll fill that in. Okay, now we get some on our fence. Alright, now the snowy tree. drip that snow along. Okay. And now we're going to go back and get us some glitter before it all dries. This actually dries pretty darn quickly. Okay, and one last side over here with the North Pole sign, which I don't know if I can show you. Let's see. Many, many things in the way. Oops, and there goes the first snow accident. Really, 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 really take care with this. And it's really easy to... I almost have killed this bottle. I've used so much snow lately. Okay, I think we've snowed it. And now we let it dry. Okay, I think I'm pretty sure that I want it to snow in my scene. And not with yellow snow, so I'm going to get some fresh white. I'm going to use my rake. And then I'm going to use a big heavy handled brush, and always, always, always over here I'm going to go to my trash can just because I got too many things being hit. Always test in an area so that you don't kill. So yeah, now it's snowing lightly. Alright, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and have it snow in front of Santa and Rudolph. We'll get Rudolph over here. Okay. We want to get our Merry Christmas based, and so rather than go on all these little sides and edges, I'm going to use the Jumbo Dauber and just go straight up and down with scant paint, and I'll do 2 or 3 coats. I'll do just like 1 coat or however much I can just get by with on the bottom so that I don't affect how it fits in its stand. Okay, we'll get that, dry it, do a couple coats just to get that nice and solid. Alright, while it's wet, I'll flip it over, and I'm going to stipple across the bottom just to darken the base of the letters. And that'll go like a fade. Okay, we'll just walk all the way across. Okay, and we're going to flip it over. I'm going to blot on paper towel. And I'm going to pick up my country red. Okay, and then this one we're going to go right across the tops, fading into the middle. Isn't that clever, clever, clever? Okay. And now we'll go blot on our paper towel one more time, and we'll go into the coral blush. And that's just going to be a little bitty skim right across the top. Kind of angle it so you don't cover up everything you've done in the red, the other colors. Alright, to give myself some jazz, I'm going to use Sizzling Red as a glaze over the top using a jumbo dauber. This is going to be very sheer, but it's going to add glitter that doesn't wipe off, and that'll settle down and it'll just be nice and transparent when it dries. You can do a couple coats. The more coats you do, the more glittery it is, but I don't know how glittery we want to really get, so you can decide for yourself. Alright, to finish our letters off, we have to have some snow. Okay, we'll just drizzle that along all the letter tips, everything that's got a flat. I totally forgot we had to put snow at the bottom of our little reindeer. He's got some spray on him, so I'm getting some resist. So that means I'm going to do it drier than I normally would. Okay, so we'll go ahead and fluff. And then he needs to have some snow dripping on him too. There we go. And since Santa's sleigh is going through the snow, he needs to have some snow going on too. Alright, we're going to base our base with black green, and we're just going to use a jumbo dauber, and we're just going to apply it nice and evenly. You can decide if you want to do your edges or not. Just be careful about getting paint into these grooves. That's the thing. Okay, so always pounce over on something that you don't care about, and then come back over here. Back over the grooves. That way you don't squeeze things down in there. Embellishments are absolutely everything. So what I'm going to do is use these little bit of lights, and I'm just going to string them around my tree just to give it that one more bit of dimension. Yeah, and I think that's just going to be so cute. So I will just hot glue those in place, and after I unwind them, yes, I think those are just wonderful.